Hey everybody, welcome back to Betty and Leon. On today's episode, we're going to be putting this thing back into Betty and getting her rolling again. Yeah! Let's go have a look in the shed.
Action shot.
For the reasons why.
Next to the shed.
Yeah, the action shot. The reason why we're actually going to be putting a diff together in Betty. And I'll throw up a bit of video to show you when it happens. But,
Welcome to our locked-in facility.
Yeah, we're in Nevada, the desert of Nevada. And
Area 52, locked-in facility.
And this is the reason. Let's have a look. Check that bad girl out. So, needless to say, Betty wasn't going very far when that we were third gear under the bridge at Morgan Park, about 120 k's, and it went bang. And that subsequently destroyed the housing, which I'm not going to go diving in there, which is in the back somewhere, in all the junk. Yeah, there it is, up on the table. It smashed the housing a bit. So what we ended up doing is we went and built 2 new housings. So it's a Race Products full floater that we've got in the back of Betty. It's negative 0.95 degree in the back, and you might wonder why we go so little camber in the back. That's because the rules specify less than 1 degree negative. So Race Products have actually designed a kit specifically for our category and the other cars in the category. You know, like your Mustangs and Falcons and EHs and things. And they can also custom make anything you want. And I will say from the start, at the get-go, I'm not affiliated with Race Products. I just love people who do good engineering. Sweet.
I've got to just do these.
Ooh,
see, I don't have to move.
That's very cool.
Yeah, see.
Step number 1.
Yep.
We usually get them sandblasted, but we didn't need to this time because they're clean enough. Rattle can rebuilds are the best. They're super lightweight, and if I miss painting a spot, we save weight, which is the key to going circuit racing. So awesome. Got a little primey. It actually makes the noise itself. I don't have to do that sound effect. It's probably kind of handy. Light coats, gentlemen, light coats. I'm using a Dulux Duramax metal primer.
Oh, are they a sponsor?
Not yet. For the 3 diffs we'll do in a lifetime, but you know. And you can see I'm outside. I won't be sucking in those fumes.
Yep. Got all your PPE on.
All the PPE is being worn. And by that I mean I stand upwind of the spray, so the spray goes the opposite direction.
Yep.
And to be fair, I'm not actually smelling it, so it's okay.
And
I would normally wear a respirator though.
And the camera shake is obviously just me laughing at you being a
Hey, you'll have to bleep that out.
bleep head. I take it you got some of that on the bare metal bits.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Oh.
Because why do the job correctly, you know? They were just leaving a grey undercoat. That seems to be the thing for Lamborghinis, so, you know, keeping Stefan in theme with that. Or Mazda 3s. Now I'm downwind. My PPE's failing me.
You can turn the rotisserie, otherwise known as a clothesline.
What? Lies.
See, look at that.
I feel like there should be some sort of meat on here. You know, do your meat rotisserie and just painting diffs and hooking up a feed at the same time. Got to do a few test sprays. Just got to clean that nozzle out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And light coats again. Yeah. We get a bit of flare going on. But you don't want runs, gentlemen. It's a race car. It's got to look the best it could ever look.
Mm-hmm.
So they say. Or so I say. I feel like Picasso on training day. You know?
Picasso on training day?
Yeah. Well, he had to paint his first painting at some point, right?
Yeah, but he used brushes.
Well, that's
He didn't use rattle cans. He wasn't. He wasn't.
That's why he's painting ears on the sides of, you know, faces and things.
There's that famous graffiti dude whose name eludes me.
Banksy.
That's it. So you can say you feel like Banksy. I bet you he didn't start painting diffs either.
Probably not.
Probably railway carriages or something.
Something cool, yeah.
Actually, I've often thought about getting something done on that wall over there.
Which wall?
That one.
Where
Where all that shit is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Look, I'm for hire. You can see how good I am.
Yeah,
Nice
but
and
I don't just want it black. I actually would like something in it, you know.
I could do it in red. Look at this. It's all coming up Millhouse, gents. Righto, first things first, I'm going to do the easy stuff, which is putting in the stainless steel breather, goes in the top, and the where's the third? There's the third. The 3 plugs that obviously allow you to fill it full of oil and stop oil coming out of it. When you manufacture these diffs, this is a standard RX2 housing, obviously, that's the category, that's what we got to run to. We actually increase the height of the fill plug so that we keep more oil in the diff, because I have a sneaking suspicion that's possibly why that other diff went, is that it got too hot and then had issues. But I mean, when we stripped it down, the bearings weren't trashed. It was literally just the tooth had come off and then smashed itself around inside the housing. So maybe we just got unlucky, because those diffs come out fairly often. All right, let's do it. I gotta stop saying let's do it when doing that. So the filler plug obviously just has a Teflon washer on it, because that's the one that comes in and out all the time. What I like to do with the other 2, which are your standard Mazda ones with the magnets on them, is I just put a bit of thread tape on them, because they're never going to come out, and it just stops any chance of a leak. You know, your Ultra TV gasket will also suffice if you don't have any thread tape lying around. Do what you want. I don't care. So I usually use these mild steel studs, but what I've been finding, and it seems to be fairly common at the moment, is that steel generally isn't as strong as what it used to be. I know that's probably a big statement, but even in my experience recently with things I've just bought, yeah, the steel's not as strong as what it used to be. So these studs I found last time I built the Diff, probably would have been middle of last year. I couldn't get the torque value on it because it was just stripping the stud out, which, you know, the 3 or 4 times I built them before using the same studs, because I always replace the studs every time I build a Diff, they were fine. So, you know, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but in my experience it is. So I've now moved to a titanium stud, which might seem like a bit of overkill, but you know, it's going to be stronger. It's going to enable me to torque it down properly, and I'm hoping that I won't have to replace these every time, because they'll keep their threads fine as we crank them up and down. And it's actually not a lot of torque. It's like 14 foot-pound or something. It's very low torque. So moving to these, going to try them out. Yeah, and hopefully we don't see the same issue that we saw last time. I think that's highly unlikely. But yeah, we'll throw them in. And the other cool thing about these studs is they've got an Allen key in the head, which means that it's really easy to wind them on and off, which when you're at the racetrack, that will be another little thing that will save you, you know, just that little bit of time that might enable you to get back on the track if you've had a problem and you've had to pull the member out of it or do something with it. So it's all about looking for that efficiency, because the quicker you can do it at home, the quicker you'll do it at the track. So those studs need to be machined down, really. I've just had to go get some of the same studs that I used to have in it that I just said were terrible, because our new titanium ones have a shoulder on the bolt that won't actually go through the hole, which means that when you do up the third member, it won't actually clamp down enough. So we don't have a lathe, but we're gonna have to go take them to our mate who's got them in a lathe. I need to get this diff back together, so we're gonna go with the old ones with what we know. Hopefully the steel is a bit better and everything works out fine. But yeah, we're gonna have to do a bit of machine work on those, which is a bit sad because they're kind of nice, but they only need, you know, I'm gonna say 0.25 of a mil taken off them, and they would fit. But anyway, it is what it is. So let's do a rewind back to putting studs in that are the different, yeah, which are different studs to the previous ones. Good times. But that's building the car for you. You get 1 step forward, and then you go 2 steps back, and then you work it out, and away we go. And the big part, the annoying part about this that I was looking forward to on those other studs was the fact that it had the little Allen key in the top instead of having to crush 2 nuts together and wind them in. But anyway, that happens sometimes. It is what it is. Alright, we're going to put the third member in now. Well, I'm just going to test fit it to make sure I put the studs in the right spot. That's always a good way to go. Then I'm just going to eyeball it and check the backlash and things in it to make sure it is good to go back in. But this diff was rebuilt. It's done 1 race, mate. It's done 4 races, so it should be sweet. Alright. So I do put the studs in the right spot, which is always handy. It should just slip in down. You'll find that you do have to jiggle them around a bit, because the way the Mazda diffs work is they kind of, the bearing caps sit within the part of the housing so that the bearings can't actually move under load. That was one of the issues with the other diff that got smashed, was that when that diff fell apart, it broke, it kind of damaged the inner ring, which means that it wouldn't hold it well enough. So I wasn't keen having it in a race car and not having the bearing caps held. And you can actually see it on the bearing caps. They've got like a little machine surface that, that sits on those bits of the diff. All right, so what I was just saying is these are the little machined bits on the bearing caps that sit inside the diff. So they protect the bearing from, you know, from moving outwards like this, and then, you know, coming off, damage the bearing, and then catastrophic damage. In the race cars, we run LSDs, Mazda LSDs. There's actually two types. There's one with an aggressive ramp and one with a bit more of a sedate ramp. We use the more aggressive type. And then yeah, standard Mazda gear set in these. So what I'm doing now, I'm just, this diff, like I said, was rebuilt like middle of last year. It's done 4 races. I'm not expecting to find any chips in teeth or any issues with bearings, but I mean, once you've got it out, you may as well check it out and have a look at it and just make sure, and feel the backlash as well, to make sure there's nothing sort of excessive there or any chips that are gonna ruin your day when you go racing again. We're up to gooping it. Bit of the blue goo, works real well. It's impervious to oil and things, so just a nice little bead. Don't want to go spastic with it, and I always go around the studs. You know, you don't want to have an oil leak around the studs. The early days when I used to do this, I used to really probably put too much on, thinking more was better. And then over the few times I've had to do it, I've realized that less is more. As long as you've got full coverage. Because when it squishes down, obviously it squishes down to a nice small gap, you know. A little bit goes a long way. It's probably right in front of me, but anyway, I can sit there till I found that. All right, so now we're going to put the pumpkin in. And they're heavy little suckers. Just going to use the edge of the bench here. We might have to give it a little jiggle. Sometimes you got to hit it with just a little rubber mallet, which I probably will, just to move things around. Yeah, you're just trying to get it to slide down on all the studs and to seat, obviously, on the inside. There we go. Felt that drop. Now the front. There we go. So that's down and on, which is awesome. You might see that we've got, you know, what you'd think that I've missed a stud. That's not what's going on there. What we do is we use them to get the diff out. So we wind bolts into there if we ever want to remove the third member. So that's a really cool, handy, you know, race car kind of tip if you're having to pull diffs in and out. Because otherwise you got to try and cut the silicon, and getting it off is a bit of a nightmare. So that's a really nice hot tip that I got shown from a previous owner of Leon. Like I said before, I like using new hardware, so we've got all new nylocks there. And then we've got some machine washers that also get crushed down on that. Found my 13 deep socket, start at the bottom. Boom, click. Do it in the star config. That is now third member in the housing. I'll leave it for about 20 minutes, come back, wipe all the goop off because it's just easier to do it while it's drying. And then that can go back in the car. So we've reconvened to a new location under Betty 5000. I don't know why I just said 5,000, but I felt like that was needed.
Vanessa laugh, I feel.
Yeah, we could put a big wing on it, some bolt-on flares. Well, we're going to lift the diff in a position, so no, I think we just piss that off and go like that. Yep. And then we jack her up, get it on the 4-link, and then life is a bit easier. Just,
keep on going.
Ow!
Keep on going. Watch your head.
Just got stabbed by the thing in my side of my head.
Fucking break the diff with your head, you dickhead.
Well, it is pretty hard, the old head. Okay, we changed position again, and we're going to put the floating ends onto the diff housing. I just want to show you, this here. This is the camber wedge, so this is what gives you the actual camber. Race products that are really great, got really great ideas where they've actually machined into it all the specifications, so you won't be able to see it, but it actually says, forward facing this way. It's the left-hand side. It's a 10mm plate. It's 0.95 degrees, so you know exactly what you're working with if you're dealing with multiples of them, or you need to change camber settings. You would have multiple ones of these plates. You could do that pretty easily. So, and look at the machine work on the ends. Everything looks really cool. And this diff was actually fabricated by Race Products as well. So, they've done some very nice welding on that one. So, all right, we're gonna put these ends back on. I cheated. I unbolted the 6 bolts and took the end off. I didn't want to disconnect the brake line. That was my sort of line of thinking there, but as luck wouldn't have it, I had to disconnect it anyway. But I managed to leave the handbrake on, so I got away with, being lazy just a little bit. So I've just finished putting those bolts in, torque them up with a torque wrench. Race Products supply you with a instruction manual on all the different torques and things, which is really good. Just got to fit the brake line now. We run AN3 speed flow hose and fittings on Betty. A lot of people reckon that these lines under brake pressure expand and give you bad pedal feel. That hasn't been my experience. The whole car's done in it, and the pedal is hard as a rock, so take of that what you will. The last part of the process is putting in the axles. It's quite easy. Just got to undo this little cap here. there's a seal behind here, so if you're doing it at the racetrack and you got oil in your diff, generally all the oil falls out, so it's a good idea to jack your car up. If you want to have a little look-see of that, you know, stand a little seal. I'm going to put it on something. It's not going to put oil or grease onto that seal. Okay, so let's go get the axle. I forgot the most important bit. Run with me, bro. Run with me. Run with me, bro. Get that axle. Ooh. Yeah, look at that. So we've got this sweet little axle duvallaki that allows you to, which side are we doing? Passenger. Floating axle. Boom, shackle dackles. They've got like a barrel. This is what allows them to have the camber. They're 300M billet axles and very strong, very small compared to the original ones. So, throw a little tool in the end. It's basically a nice little handle, and this comes with Race Products diffs. So, you know, like I said, you spend the money, you get all the good gear. And there's these little plastic bits that go in the end just to stop the end flow to the axle. So, pretty cool. Never broken one, thankfully. Now I've said that, I'm going to break one next time out. But it's as easy as sliding it in there and then slipping her in. But I've got to get it into the diff first. There we go. Boom. Wind out your little handle. Put your little end floaty dude in it. And then throw the cap back on. So, like I say, your braking axle is pretty easy. Kind of go fishing for it. Or if you need to fill your oil, is also easy. You can take off ones, like drop your oil out, jack it up, you know, so that one side's higher than the other, and pour the oil in through here as well. That's another little race car trick that people do. And then, yeah, you just, you know, you're not trying to crank these up too hard. You just want it to seat on that thing, and that's all she wrote. So that's how you put the diff back in the Betty. Hope you enjoyed that little spiel. I did. I like seeing my cars back together. So that was that. Betty's now back on her wheels. Next episode, we're pulling the gearbox so we can fix third gear crunch.
Done.